5:30. Continuous coverage of news, traffic, and weather at 560theanswer.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues now on AM 560, The Answer.
Build business with Chamber 630, one of the largest business organizations in DuPage County. Marketing your business and connecting clients is their priority. Visit chamber630.com or call 630-968-4050 to join today.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Oh, look who we have here.
That's right, baby.
Shaun from Elmwood Park.
Yep.
Filling in for me. I'm filling in for Dan because Dan's filling in for Mike Gallagher. So he'll be on from 9 to 11 right after.
It's like a shift at a firehouse here. A lot of people running around with rubber jackets on.
I know. But to tell you, my face, I'm in a little bit of pain right now.
Oh, don't worry about it. You look
You
gorgeous.
have this new lotion that you're, what
Heavily
is
invested in.
what did
We'll
I
talk
just
about it later. Let's get Stephen Moore up here. I want a refund.
Oh, you want a refund? Oh, okay. But yeah, President Trump yesterday, let's talk about this because we talked about how he's the chosen one, when it comes to trade with China. He's the guy.
Somebody had to do it. I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it. So I'm taking on China. I'm taking on China on trade. And you know what? We're winning because we're the piggy bank. We're the one that all these countries, including the European Union, wants to rob and takes advantage of. European Union, $200 billion. China, more than $500 billion. Sorry. I was put here by people. I was put here by people to do a great job. And that's what I'm doing. And nobody's done a job like I've done.
And and then yesterday we didn't get into this earlier today that he flipped on background checks. He was for background checks, and then he sided with the NRA that the rules we have in place are fine, and now he's back to wanting them.
Oh, I have an appetite for background checks. We're going to be doing background checks. We're working with Democrats. We're working with Republicans. We already have very strong background checks, but we're going to be filling in some of the loopholes we just talked about, concepts. Wayne agrees things have to be done also.
And back to the economy, of course, he wanted, payroll tax cuts. That's what he said 2 days ago that he wanted them, and now they're off the table again. But he's still blaming everything on the Federal Reserve.
No, I don't demand it, but if he used his head, he would lower them. The Federal Reserve has let us down. They missed the call. They raised them too fast. They raised it too high.
So have they let us down? Let's begin there with Stephen Moore, good friend of the show. Welcome back, Stephen. How are you?
Hi, Amy. Good to be with you.
I should mention, too, you're a noted economist and a Wall Street Journal columnist and author of Trumponomics, Inside the American First Plan to Revive Our Economy. So how are we going to do that, Stephen Moore?
Yeah, and by the way, most importantly, the chief economist for the Dan and Amy show. I mean,
exactly.
We'll decide that after this interview, kid. Go ahead.
So look, the Fed, you guys know I've been one of the chiefest, critics of the Fed over the last year. That's one of the reasons Trump had appointed me or nominated me to be on the Fed. The Fed has been way, way too tight for way, way too long. Trump's right. They made a catastrophically bad set of decisions last year in raising rates when there was no inflation in the economy. We now have a big threat of deflation. There's $1 trillion of bonds out there that are selling at negative interest rates, and that's because people are much more worried about deflation now than inflation, and deflation can be very harmful to the economy. So, the Fed has to do. Now, Trump wants a 100 basis point cut in interest rates. I don't. I want 50. But that would be. But they should do it now. They shouldn't wait till late September. They should do it now. The economy needs it. The other thing I'd say is all of this talk about recession. That's all I've been hearing all week. Oh my God, a recession.
Well, that's what the Democrats need. That's the only way they're going to defeat Trump in 2020.
Well put, Amy. I mean, this is wishful thinking. And by the way, I was in San Francisco last week. I had to give a speech to investment group, and people asked me, "Is there a recession?" I said, "No," and people started frowning. I'm like, "Hey, that's good news." No, we want a recession. Because we want to take. It's unbelievable how many liberals I know who say they want Americans to lose their jobs. They want millions of working class people to lose their jobs, including people like Bill Maher at HBO, so that they can take back political power. I mean, how unpatriotic and how just disgusting is that people crave political power so much that they want Americans to suffer. But the good news is we're not facing a recession. I think we're going to have some slow growth, but no recession.
Okay, so now listen, I want to give you a little background of me and you. that you don't know about.
Okay.
Okay.
Wait, first of all, do you two know each other?
Let me explain.
Wait a minute. Are you the chief economist
No.
for the Dan and Amy show?
For the Joe Walsh campaign.
He's the chief
I'm
antagonist.
lobbying as we speak. But here's the thing.
Oh, that was a great campaign. You guys were awesome.
1987, right? I go down to the
I
Merc.
remember it well.
Go down to the Merc, right? It's my second week to crash. I hear of Stephen Moore because you're just coming around in the 80s. You remember the late 80s? I start listening to you, and I'm like, listen, this guy is an Austrian economist. I love this son of a gun.
Wow.
I buy all your books, all right? And all
Stalker.
Listen, I'm
no,
not
he's
kidding
stalking you.
All
Okay.
the way.
Keep talking. I love it.
I'm a big fan. I watch you, and you're taking on all of the Keynesian frauds, the Krugman. You're debating him every other month, right? And I get a kick out of you.
I'm just worried there's a butt here.
No, yeah, well, here's the thing.
Oh, it's coming.
You know, I listen to you. I get a kick out of you.
That's a microaggression,
You got
by
the
the way.
dirty glasses, the laugh. I'm a big fan, and I buy the
Thank
books and I read them all. And you're kind of taking
You
the
have
mantle.
economics?
Yeah, no, I don't, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, well, I'm going to
Because
send you a copy, all right?
That's 180 degrees from the books I bought. So the way I look at it, you owe me $143.65 because the Stephen Moore I knew would have never sat by and as a president demanded quantitative easing. He would have never sat by as he knuckled under cheap manipulated interest rates to phony baloney loans so we can point at a stock market, half of which is bought on margin. So, and the other thing, too, about the recession, I notice we don't mention the fundamentals of what a recession is. How's the freight looking? How's the freight line that's been collapsing for 5 years?
Yeah,
You're pumping this up on Keynesian nonsense, brother. And I want the truth. I don't want a recession. But I know the difference between a government-manipulated and controlled economy and one that's real, the one that you used to espouse, the real one of the people. Now we're so mixed in with government spending, we call that a good GDP. So listen,
Well,
and when we're using Europe, oh look, they're doing it, so we should do it. Europe is in a collapse, a free fall. They don't know what they're doing, and they got negative interest rates, and now that's the path we're on. You should be going 180 degrees against this nonsense, in my opinion.
Well, look, I mean, there's some truth to what you're saying, Shaun, and I agree with you totally that Republicans are spending way too much money, and one of the drags on the economy is the amount of government spending that we have. You're 100% right in that. Government spending does not stimulate the economy. Government spending depresses the economy. That's one of the reasons Illinois has been in a mini depression, right? Because you keep spending and spending and taxing. Now, look, I'm totally proud of the tax cut we did, Shaun. You got to admit that was a home run. I mean, we cut rates for businesses, and we're now getting capital from around the world, all this repatriated money.
I love
We've got
that.
the lowest on them. Pardon?
I love that. And you know,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
takes on the
And we're doing the
immorality of a progressive
deregulation.
tax. Yeah, it's great.
Now, here's the thing, and I've debated Dan and Amy on this for months on this show, so I'll ask you this question. I mean, look, I'm a free trader. You're a free trader. Amy, you're a free trader. I support what Trump is doing on China, and I say that knowing that it's hurting the economy. There's no doubt about it. This trade war is hurting the economy, but I agree with what Trump said yesterday. I mean, this is the epic battle of our time. China is a bad actor. We see every day that the communists have taken control of the government there. Their troops are probably going to, what do they call themselves? The Liberation Army. It looks like they may,
Right.
in the next few months, move into Hong Kong. They are stealing our property, intellectual property. They don't play by the international rules on trade. And I think that Trump is doing the right thing here. And I say that acknowledging that it is hurting the economy, but it's hurting China even more than it's hurting us.
But you don't buy the nonsense of a deficit. You know there's no such thing as a deficit, and that's a wordplay to invoke an emotion. You also know...
You mean trade deficit?
So there's no such thing. It's value. I give you this dirty
I
paper.
agree with you.
Okay, so you get that. And
Yeah,
you
you know what,
furthermore understand the World Trade Organization doesn't really benefit. The facts don't really support the argument of them stealing stealing our... Number one, I don't know who our is. Stealing our technology. Are they stealing companies that choose to do business with them? Maybe, but so what? Let the companies go bankrupt.
Shaun, this is why the World Trade Organization is such a joke. I mean, we should have never let China in the World Trade Organization. It's the most feckless organization, and then here they are stealing. And by the way, just talk to the people at IBM, Google, Facebook. Our manufacturers, they steal wantonly and brazenly.
Then why do they do business?
This has been
with
happening.
Why are
they
doing
steal
business?
our intellectual property. They steal our technology. They
Right.
steal our patents, our copyrights. I mean, ask any company in Illinois about China what they're doing. They have forced technology transfers that we have to provide to them to do business over there. I mean, it is an incredibly abusive relationship, and they are stealing our intellectual property.
But when is this
And by the
going to
way, more
end?
and more, Shaun. More and more of what we produce in America is intellectual property. Our computer software, our patents, our copyrights, all of this stuff. I mean, there's 100 Apple stores. I just met with the representative of Apple in Washington. He said there's 120 Apple stores in China right now, and only 10 of them are owned by Apple because what the Chinese do is slap the Apple insignia on the door and say, we're Apple. I mean, that's stealing.
No, I understand. But even when we settle this trade, tariff war, are we going to have like intellectual property police in China making sure that they're not doing this?
That's a great question, Amy. And how do you enforce intellectual property? You have to really use moral suasion, and you have to enforce it. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have a trade agreement that says that has them backing off on the stealing. And then if they're guilty of stealing, then you have to impose punishment on them. I mean, that's the only language. These are not good people.
No,
these are not good people.
Well,
we're
listen,
dealing with
and
in
here's
China.
the thing. These companies should be beholden to the ramifications of their decisions. If they make decisions like that, then let them go bankrupt, okay? There's no we and there's no us. I just want to open up the free flow of trade. And the other thing I will say about the patent system is you're not telling me you're a fan of the American patent system, which charges the small investor $100,000 in a bureaucracy that lasts 18 months to get a patent. So, I mean, if we're really going to throw everything at the wall, let's dissect what the real issues are. I'm not a pro-patent guy, especially the United States of America legal stronghold on the patent system. I like the idea that companies can compete.
Shaun, I mean, you're right that the patent system is, incredibly flawed, and it is biased against the small business, no doubt about it. So you've got me on that one. But look, when we produce a new drug or vaccine or a new production process or, some new way of doing things or some new product, we can't have, the rest of the world stealing this stuff from us, or else you're going to just destroy the innovation process that leads to all these new inventions in the first place. I mean, the patent process is really fundamental to the American innovation process. Now, you are right, my friend. It is extremely flawed, and you and I ought to work together with Amy and Dan to get that thing fixed, because you're right. Small businesses are at a great disadvantage in the patent process over the big guys, and that's a big problem.
All right, a lot of hardworking Americans want to keep more of the money that they make. What is this back and forth cat and mouse game with the payroll tax cuts? Because one day he wants to do it, next day it's off the table. Where is he? Do you know?
I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I think, look, what Trump started by saying is, look, we're raising $25 to $30 billion a year in tariff taxes, so let's use that $25 to $30 billion to cut taxes elsewhere. And I thought that was a pretty good idea. So they suggest a payroll tax cut. That's not going to happen. I do like the idea, and I'll run this by Amy, you, and Shaun. What about the idea of indexing capital gains tax for inflation, so that when you invest, $1,000 today and you sell a stock, for $2,000 10 years from now, but let's say there's 20% inflation on that, should you have to pay a tax on the inflationary gain? I say no. I think we should index those taxes for inflation, so you're only paying tax for the real gain, not the inflationary gain. And I think that would do a lot for investment. I think it would do a lot for stock owners. And I wonder what you guys think about that idea.
Well, first, I like your idea. I'm with you 100%.
It's ridiculous that it's not already in place, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we have to have a movement that
and you're
goes
talking
back
to an investor here.
Goes back to privatizing the economy. As you sit there, and you know this because you're an Austrian, you've watched this collectivist agenda seize our economy. And what I need you to do is stick up for us a little bit more, because I got my eye. I got my eye on that slippery Peter Navarro.
I'll just correct you on one thing. I am not actually an Austrian. I'm a Chicago school guy. I learned my economics from Milton Friedman, and I know Milton would probably be angry at me for supporting the Trump tariffs, as you are, Shaun. So I'll take that spanking. But, I just think when you're dealing with – you can't have free trade with a country that steals and cheats. I mean, should we have been having free trade with the Nazis? Should we have had free trade with the Soviet Union?
Prescott Bush thought so.
Yeah.
Right? So here's the other thing. I want you to just do me a favor. You tell Peter Navarro with his new Boris Karloff hairdo, I see him, and I know him for the Democrat scoundrel he is.
Oh.
All right? Let him know that.
All right. Have a great week, guys.
Thanks, Stephen Moore.
I said hi.
Stephen Moore, noted economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, and author of Trumponomics, and he joined us on our turnkey